Right, okay, so welcome back to this topic of applications 1.1. Again, this is the route map of applications 1.1. We've previously looked at the area of a triangle, and now we're going to turn our attention to the sine rule. So let's just dive in and have a look at the sine rule in action. This is it. This is the sine rule. A over sine A is equal to B over sine B is equal to C over sine C. This formula is given to you in the test, and it's important that we just understand exactly what all these letters actually mean. So A, B, and C are the sides of a triangle. So, for example, this triangle here, you've got an A, B, and a C. These are just the lengths of the triangle, of the sides. The capital letters are the angle that is opposite that side. So, for example, if that side here is side A, then the angle that is opposite it is called, the angle A. And again, we can do this with B. B is that angle that is opposite to this length here, the B side, and again, C is opposite to the C side. So that's just a little bit of notation. Understanding what that means will make this sine rule fairly easy for you to use and apply. Okay, and again, this sort of thing's probably easier when you actually see it in action. One thing to say is in practice, you will probably only use this bit of the equation. Okay, so this thing here that you're given in the test, this is true, but the way you're actually going to use it is you're just going to look at this first bit. A over sine A equals B over sine B. That's going to do the job. That's going to get the job done for you. Okay, to use this, you need two sides and two angles to use this formula. Again, it makes sense. There's two sides, two angles. Now, one of those values will be the missing value that you need to find. So you'll usually be looking for a side or you'll be looking for an angle. Again, let's jump in and see it in action. So let's have a look. First thing I'm noticing, we've got one side that we care about. We've got two sides that we care about because we've got information about them. And we've got two angles. Okay, so let's just write out this formula. A over sine A is equal to B over sine B. Let's have a look. Why don't we just call this side A? Now, what would angle A be? Angle A would be the angle opposite this side. So that's going to be sine A is going to be sine 63.5. B, we're going to label this other angle, which is going to be 7.8. Other side, which is 7.8, and that is opposite the other angle. So that's going to be sine 84. Now that you've got this, you can now find x. This is just an equation to find x. So, have a little think. How would you solve this equation? If you wanted x by itself, you would times both sides by sine 63.5. And if you times both sides by sine 63.5, that's going to give you x equals 7.8 over sine 84 times sine 63.5. Okay, pause the video if you wanted to stop and just make sure that you're happy with how I've gone from this line up here down to this line down here. All I've done is times both sides by sine 63.5. Now, this looks pretty ugly, but this is a case of putting this into your calculator. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the fraction button on my calculator to make it easier to put this in, because I'm less likely to make a mistake if I use the fraction button. Okay, so I've typed that in, and just to be clear, when I say the fraction button, I mean this button that looks like this, that allows you to type this in as a fraction. And once you do that, you're going to get 7.0189, and it carries on going. This question says the nearest integer. That's just the nearest whole number. So the nearest whole number to this would be 7. And I really strongly encourage you to type this into your calculator and check that you get 7.0189. Because if you don't get that, it means you're not typing the expression into your calculator properly. And using the fraction button will help you get it right. The other thing to check is check that your calculator is in degrees mode. And you can usually tell that because there'll be a big D at the top of the calculator. If you don't see that D, it means you need to reset your calculator. And to be honest, if you're struggling to do that, just message me, or I might even make a quick video just going over that. But check that you can get this. And so our answer is 7. So this missing side here is 7. We can check that makes sense. I mean, this big long side is 7.8, so it makes sense for this to be 7. It's not like a ridiculous answer or anything like that. And you know, there we go. There's the actual answer. Let's do another one. So first thing you're always going to do is write this out. So A over sine A is equal to B over sine B. That's going to be your first step every time. Write the equation out. And now we're going to start making a decision about, you know, what's going to be A and what's going to be B. We've got this side here that we want. So I suggest we call this this x that we're trying to find the A side. So sine A would be sine this angle because this angle is opposite the x. So that's going to be sine 29.8. B would just be the other side that we know about, 7.8. And then sine 129.2. Okay, because that's opposite this side. Again, if we want x to be by itself, what we want to do is times both sides by 29.8. And again, you've done this a lot of times when we've done algebra. It looks a bit more ugly because there's this sign in it as well. But I don't want you to be intimidated by the fact there's a sign in here. It's just the same process. X divided by something. What's the opposite of dividing? It's timesing. So we're just going to times. Okay, so I've just written that fraction out again, and now I'm timesing by sine 29.8. And again, that's the case of putting it into your calculator. Again, use the fraction button because that's going to help you get it right. I put that in there and I get 5.0021, and this continues for a while. But again, the question said to the nearest integer, so I'm going to leave that as 5. Okay, so if we're dealing with centimeters, then this would be 5 centimeters. Again, write the formula, decide which sides are which, substitute that into your formula, and then just rearrange and solve it. Okay, I'll do one more example. A over sine A is B over sine B. Okay, so this is our side A. I think it makes sense to make the thing that we're looking for just that A. Now we've got a problem here because what I want to do is I want to use this angle opposite, don't I? But it's not there. But luckily we know that the angles in a triangle sum to 180 degrees. So we can actually work out this missing angle it's actually just going to be 180. And if we just subtract the other two angles that we know about, that will give us this missing angle. So 180, what we're doing, we're taking 78 and taking 58. So that's 44. So this missing angle is 44. That's the great thing about triangles. If you know two angles, you can always work out that third angle just by taking the others from 180. So again, don't go on autopilot and just pick one of these angles. It's the angle opposite that you need. So you're going to have to work that out. So this one's going to be sine 44. Again, B is going to be the other side that we know about, which is 8.5. So sine B, the B is going to be the opposite angle, which is 78. So this 58, we're not going to use in the formula. We needed it here to work out the missing side, but it's no longer useful to us. Again, we can rearrange this. Okay, so I'm sort of jumping the step a little bit quicker here. We've got sine 78 times sine 44. And again, it's 8.5 divided by sine 78 times by sine 44. And if we type that in, we're going to get 6.0365, etc. Now it just says to the nearest integer, so that's just going to be 6. We're going to say that's roughly equal to 6. Okay, so again, this was a slightly harder version because we had that additional step of finding out the missing angle. Okay, so a wee exercise for you guys, a week to have a go at finding the variable that's missing. So in this case, x, and this is x as well. This time it wants you to give your answer to one decimal place, so just be careful with that. Okay, once again, I'm just going to let you pause and have a go working it out. Then I'll show you the answers and you can compare. Okay, so last chance to pause in case you haven't already. Okay, here are the answers. 5.7 for the first one, 4.5 for the second one. Again, this is rounded to one decimal place. And 3.5 for the third one. And I encourage you to spend a bit of time having to think about the third one, because I'm going to tell you straight away that the other missing side is 3.5 as well. And maybe just have a little think about why that is and where you may have seen this triangle before. Okay, here's my hint. Think about what this angle here is. Right, okay, so that concludes this lesson. I will see you next time for the next lesson.